Hello friends, welcome back. In this video we'll talk about Angular Interpolation or Angular Expression Language. Alright, so I'll explain what is Angular Interpolation, how can you use it, I'll give you a demo. Alright guys, so let's begin the video. Now guys, Angular Interpolation or Angular Expression Language, it is the same thing. Wherever you see double curly braces in Angular, right, it means you are working with Angular Expression Language. Alright, so this particular thing, Angular Interpolation or Angular Expression Language, is also known as one-way binding. It means you are sending data from your class, from your .ts file to your HTML. Alright, now guys, before we go and talk about Angular Interpolation or Angular Expression Language, let's talk about Jsp Expression Language. So this is the syntax, right, that you use in JSP. You use $, one curly braces and your variable name. It means that the value of this particular variable is coming from your servlet or from your Java class, right? Similar to this, if we talk about JSF or TimeLeaf, you use hash and then one curly braces and then variable name. It means that the value of this particular variable is coming from your bean or from your controller, right? So similar to JSP Expression Language or JSF Expression Language, Angular uses double curly braces to represent the expression language. The property inside double curly braces, it means that the value of that particular variable is coming from your Angular class, your .ts file. Now guys, in this video, we'll work with the string value, integer, array, object and function. Alright, so let me do one thing. Let me open the VS Code. Let me open our project and I'll give you example of each one. Alright, okay, so guys, this is our application, our home page. I have one image here and static text which says Angular Interpolation / Angular Expression Language. So if I go to code, right, so this is my text which you see on the screen and here is the image. Okay, right, now let's go and talk about double curly braces, which is Angular Expression Language, right? So for example, I have title here, right? This title is a string variable, right? Now I want to use the value of this particular title on the HTML file here, right? So what I will do, let me just create a paragraph. I'm using HTML paragraph tag, right? And I'm just writing here welcome to, and now I'm using double curly braces. So double curly braces means you are working with Angular Expression Language. What does it mean? It means that the value of this particular variable is coming from your component.ts class, which is your class where you write your business logic, right? So here this particular variable title has this particular value and I'm using this variable here inside my expression language. Now I want to see the entire string welcome to Avengers the end game on the screen. Okay, so let's go and have a look. So here you go. What is here? Welcome to Avengers the end game. So this particular value, right, this particular string is coming from your component.ts class. Alright guys, now let me do one thing. Let me create one more variable. Let's call it subtitle, or yeah, subtitle, right, equals to, let's call it superheroes. Simple, right? Now I want to use this particular variable. Let me just go and use it here, and then this time I will not write anything. I will simply use double curly braces and the variable name, which is subtitle. Save. Let's go and check our screen. What do you see here? You see here superheroes. It means the value of this particular variable subtitle is coming from your app component.ts class. Okay, now guys, what if I use something, for example, let me just call it subtitle 2 and save. What do you see? You see a compile time error. What it says? It says the property subtitle 2 does not exist in your component class, right? If you used any variable which doesn't exist, you will get compile time error. Let me fix this one. Right, now you see compiled successfully, everything is good. Now if I go to my class and if I change it to subtitle, say 1, right, and let me say this one, what do you see? Again you see an error saying the property subtitle does not exist, because in your HTML file we have used subtitle, right, but in your component.ts it's called subtitle 1 and you see a compile time error, right? So this is the beauty of Angular. Control S. Now if I go and see the screen, everything looks good. Okay, now guys, let's talk about some integer values. So what I will do, I will use, say for example, team count. Team count is a variable, and say for example there are 12 heroes. in Avengers team, or say 10 or 12, doesn't matter. Right, now I want to use this particular property. So what I will do, I'll go here. I'm using another paragraph and say, for example, team size equals to double curly braces. It means I'm using Angular expression language or Angular interpolation. Okay, let's go and look at the screen. What do you see here? Team size equals to 12, right? So this is how you can pass a string or integer value from your component.ts to your HTML file. Right, guys? Now let's talk about object, right? You have an object. So for example, you have superhero object, right? This is your object, and this is how do we represent an object in Angular. An object can have multiple properties. Say for example, I'm using one called label. Let's call it Iron Man. Now because it's an object can have multiple attributes. Say for example, first name, right? And say Tony, right? Last name, and say Stark, right? And if I say latest underscore movie, say for example, Avengers Endgame, right? So that is the recent movie, right? And save. Now let me do one thing. I'll copy superhero object. So this is my object, and my object has 4 attributes or 4 properties, right? Let me go to the component.html file, and here we are talking about Angular object. Okay. Now let me simply use the object as it is, superhero object. Now let's go to the screen. So what do you see here? Angular object. It says object, right? It means that this property is of type object, right? Now we need to read something. Say for example, I want to read the first name. So I'll use object dot property name that I want to fetch from the object. So I want to write first name. Now let's go to the screen. So what do you see here? Tony, right? Now if I go and say for example, I want to read the other attributes, say last name, right? And say for example, I want to read the latest movie. So I'll go here and I will put this one here, right? So I'm printing first name, last name, and latest movie on the HTML file. That is my screen. So you see Tony Stark, latest movie is Avengers the Endgame, right guys? So this is how you can make use of your object and you can read your object, right? So basically to read the property of this object, we are using Angular expression language or Angular interpolation, same thing, right guys? Now let's talk about array. Alright guys, so here I have a new array called Avengers array, and my array has got multiple elements like Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, Black Widow, Hulk and all, right? Now let me copy this Avengers array, which is my array name, right? My variable. And say for example, here we are talking about Angular array. Okay. Now say for example, if I use the variable name as it is, Avengers array, let's go and see the result. So what do you see? You see all the elements here. Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, Black Widow, and everything, right? We have printed the entire array, so it will display all the elements of your array. But say for example, I just want to read the very first element, right? So I'll use 0 index, which is index 1. Array starts from 0 index, right? So I want to print the first element of my array, which is Iron Man. Say for example, I want to read say I'll use 1 and 2 as well, right? Let me just go and see. So you see the very first element is Iron Man, then you have Captain America, then you have Thor, right? So guys, this is how you can read the elements of an array by using Angular expression language. Alright, so far we have covered string values, integer, object, and array. Now let's quickly talk about function as well, right? So how do you create a function? So for example, let me call it, my function is super villain, right? And then here I will return, say ultron, right? So I have a function called super villain. Now let's go and use it. So this time we are talking about Angular function, right? So I want to call the function by using Angular Expression Language, double curly braces, right? So I'll use the function name and a small bracket to call the function, right? Let's go and check our UI. So what do you see here? Angular function, and it is returning a value called ultron. This is what you returning from your function. Now guys, here you have noticed one thing, that I have used double quotes here and single quotes here to represent a string value, right? So Angular works fine with both. You can use single quotes or you can use double quote, right? So I'll just to be sync or just to be go with the guidelines, let's use the single quotes to represent a string value in Angular. Now if I go and check my result, I still get the same result, ultron, right? So it is the best practice to use single quotes to represent a string value in Angular. All right. So guys, in this video, we have discussed how can you read a string array or object by using Angular expression language. All right. Thank you for watching, and please do subscribe my channel.